Well, thank you, Jim. We truly appreciate that. Hey, am I going crazy, or is this mission confusion relative to Homeland Security and in particular China?
I think there's two observations there. I think you're spot on both. The China one first is the real gut of this story is that what's going on here with the balloons is, and they are a real serious effort to collect targeting data on the United States for China's nuclear missile force. That's what they're doing. It gets to the problem of this administration, which is they want to be tough on China and not tough on China at the same time. Right? So they know Americans want them to be tough on China, so they know that, but they really don't want to be tough on China because they want John Kerry to go over there and negotiate with them and have Blinken FT with them and stuff, and so they're trying to have it both ways, and which is why they seem like completely out of touch here and unable to even do simple explanations. But your other point is equally well made, which is this says a lot about Homeland Security. Because you can I'll tie three stories directly together. The train wreck disaster catastrophe in Ohio, the balloon thing, and what's going on at the border. These are exactly the things that after 9/11, we decided we are too at risk for large-scale disasters, an unsecured border, and to be attacked from our own skies. And we created Homeland Security, we created Northcom, the military command, all with the idea was America needs to be more secure than it was on 9/11. And what we have here under the Biden administration is, whether you're talking about the border or air sovereignty, or apparently our ability to respond to big disasters, is we are worse at this than we were on September 11th, 2001, when 3,000 people died, and we said, oh my God, we got to be better at this. And it's all because of one thing. It's because this administration has put their political agenda above being the servants of the people. They don't want to secure the border because that's not their politics. They don't want to make a big deal out of this China thing because they don't want to be tough on China. And they want the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and everything else to be pursuing their political enemies, not protecting American citizens.
Well, it kind of struck me as odd and mystified by the fact that we're not even certain what to call these things. In fact, there's a whole bunch of friction as to how we're going to refer to it. We're now talking about unexplained aerial phenomenon. But is it a balloon? Is it not a balloon? We don't know. It's crazy that the leaders in the military can't come to an agreement as to what we're going to call it.
Well, this goes back to the fact that we don't want to call out the Chinese, because then we have to do something about it. So we're making excuses like, oh, it's not that big a deal. We blocked them. Don't worry about it. Well, we're not really sure what this is, because we just don't want to do that. So I'll give you a perfect example of that. I mean, we actually had a senior U.S. official in uniform said, could be aliens. I'm not excluding anything. I'm not ruling anything out. Well, look, this is nonsense. I mean, first, there's real science here, by the way, on aliens, which is, and I mean, they call it science fiction for a reason, because it's not real, right? If you actually could do intergalactic travel, to do that, you would have to operate at such a level of science and technology and energy expenditure that we wouldn't even necessarily recognize you as a thing, and they wouldn't actually recognize us as sentient beings. So the notion of aliens coming here in a balloon, like something out of Jules Verne, I mean, that's just bad science, right? And so for a U.S. government official to say, well, we're not excluding aliens, it's like, because you're an idiot or you watched the movie Nope too many times? What? What is that?
Your reaction was mine. Exactly. It's like, what is this guy saying? I mean, it's like we don't want to get any deeper into the conversation, so we're not going to rule anything out, and we'll just leave it at that. Let's move on, right?
Yeah, they just don't want to say, here, look, I'm not, I was in the military for 25 years, but I'm retired. I don't have access to any classified information. I don't have any more information than anybody else does publicly. And you could just look at this and say, this is a deliberate effort by the Chinese to target the U.S. for their nuclear missiles. Okay, you don't have to read a Tom Clancy novel to figure that out. Why can't our U.S. government say that? Because they don't want to acknowledge that China is our enemy, because your friends do not target with you with nuclear missiles. The people that you want John Kerry to go negotiate with do not target you with nuclear missiles. The people that unleash COVID on you do not, unleash, pandemics on the world. They are not our friends. This administration can't stand up to a microphone and said, the government of China is our enemy. They can't do that. And that's why they're just kind of spinning around like the Keystone Cops.
And the other thing that's mystifying, it is completely contrary to public sentiment, right? I mean, poll after poll after poll shows otherwise.
Right. And so they want to play, look, they did the exact same thing at the border. Biden just made the most bald-faced lie in American history to the American people. He said we have seen a 90% decline in illegal immigration. Now, the reason for that is because they've actually just told people crossing the border illegally, just go to the point of entry and we'll let you in.
Right.
Right. So there hasn't been a decline in anything. If anything, that's a recruiting thing for every cartel and human trafficker on the planet.
Well,
but the President of the United States just looked at people in the American eye and said, well, I've solved the problem.
Yeah, I mean, in the interior, we had a carrot. Now they at the point of entry, we have filet mignon. So go to the point of entry, and you're going to get the full Monty. If you go anywhere else, we can't promise you anything. I mean, and then the numbers change.
Right, and as a problem solved, it's like when Biden said, energy prices are coming down. Well, dude, they went through the roof. And then they're fractionally down from the roof, and then you're claiming credit for prices coming down. Or basically, look at all the jobs I've created. Everybody was out of work for COVID. They went back to work, and apparently that counts for job creation. We all expect politicians to stretch the truth and say things that are favorable to them. But do we really expect the President of the United States to stand up in front of us and lie to us? This would be like if JFK in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis had said, who knows what could be in those boats? They could be Russian tourists, coming to Cuba to play in the casinos. Let's not make a big deal out of this. I mean,
right.
When people say, should we be afraid of, look, I'm not afraid of World War III for the simple reason that the Chinese aren't stupid. I'm sure they stole somebody's Netflix password or HBO Max password or wherever and saw The Last of Us, and they don't want the world to be a smoking ruin. They want to win without fighting, but so they don't want World War III either, and that's not what their goal is here. But their goal is to take over the world. That is their goal, and President Biden is pretending that it's not.
So let me ask you this: where do we go from here? It seems as though we've taken some remedial measures where they've reduced the frequency or whatever of the radar system so that they can identify smaller objects at lower altitudes, and all of a sudden we see three other, we don't know what to call them, out there, but we go out and shoot them down. Where do we go from here? I mean, and I understand that we have this friction internationally now of what airspace, who controls what, right? That most people.
Well, there's no doubt that our airspace is our airspace, and that the Chinese entry was illegal. And a violation of our sovereignty. There's no question about that. And the objects that flew below 60,000 feet, they're also because airliners fly 30,000 feet below. That is a public menace and a public safety to American citizens. There's no question about that. To be honest with you, I think what's going to happen is look, the Chinese took their shot, and my guess is now that we've kind of seen this, we'll guard against it and the Chinese will probably stop. But this government, this Chinese, they're like the Terminator in the Terminator movies. They're not going to quit. They will look for other means to accomplish the same goal. We've seen this, for example, in the Confucius Institute, where everybody got wise about the Confucius Institutes and we started to shut them down. And the Chinese just are finding other ways to get into universities and do the same thing. So the problem here is you have to recognize that your enemy is the enemy. It's like the burglar that broke into your house through the front door, so you get a new lock for the front door, and the burglar just says, oh, I'm going to stop doing burglary now. No, he's going to go break in through the back door if you're not an idiot. So you have to focus on protecting the house, not dealing with the thing the bad guy did to you last time.
But what's interesting is that, and I think they've already kind of indicated that this may be the case, a lot of the technology that was utilized in the one that was shot down in the Atlantic may be U.S. technology, right?
Well, this is not terribly surprising. I mean, everybody globally sources technology. And a lot of it, and some of it's what's called commercial off the shelf, things that anybody could buy. And some of it is, classified things that people steal and through smuggling and violating export laws and other stuff. But, we've seen this in Ukraine where we shot down Russian missiles and drones and Iranian drones and found U.S. stuff. That's just the reality of the modern world. That people are going to get, particularly the stuff that's not like the super secret, technology. They're going to get that and they're going to use the best stuff, So it's not surprising that.
But is there a concern about the ease in which China is able to get this? I mean, and it goes back to what you said before. Either there's going to be a willingness in this country, and this runs both ways, Republicans, Democrats, a willingness in this country to call China out as our enemy or not.
And that's really what it boils down to. I mean, it all starts with that, right? The alcoholic starts on his way to sobriety by first acknowledging that he's an alcoholic. We are addicted to a system where we're basically funding the Chinese government to develop the capabilities to destroy and enslave us. And until we just say that out loud, that's the first step to stopping.
So, I mean, everybody pounds their chest and everything as it relates to some of the action they took relative to TikTok. I'm one that believes, okay, maybe that was necessary, but why are we stopping there?
I think we should ban all these apps. India did it.
Yeah.
India banned all the Chinese apps, and the impact on India was nothing. Right, their economy didn't suffer. Their kids can still go online and see stupid cat videos. They suffered nothing for banning these Chinese apps, except they're not handing their information over to China.
And it's obvious that as a byproduct of what's going on between the U.S. and Ukraine, that the Russians have endeared themselves to China even more, right?
Yeah.
And the Chinese are guaranteeing income for them to buy as much oil and gas as they can ship to the Chinese.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't quite understand what else has to happen on the landscape for us to recognize that whether we believe that we're backed into a corner or not, we are.
Well, I mean, the good news is, Russia has so denuded their military that they can't really threaten Europe the way they used to. So that makes them a worse ally for the Chinese. And the other thing is there's been so much diversification, despite what Joe Biden and John Kerry want, diversification in energy and development of new energy sources, that the price of fuel and everything has gone down. That the Russians just cut production because the price is dropping. So, even the advantage that China had in the sense that they could buy cheap gas and oil from Russia because Russia couldn't send to anybody else, that's diminished because now the Chinese can buy it on the market just like everybody else.
So, James, coming back to the balloons, why such an information void
from the government?
From the government. I mean, it's almost as though they're having a real difficult time. I mean, I don't know if you saw Karine Jean-Pierre the other day in some of her comments. Yeah. I mean, she was tied up like a pretzel. I mean, and she just couldn't get out of this cycle. It was crazy.
There are two things. One is, which is the real meat of the problem, which is they really don't want to be tough on China, so they really don't want to be talking about this. Because if they talk about it, then they have to do something about it. The other thing is quite honestly, when somebody does something to you and you take countermeasures against that, you really shouldn't be talking about it, because when you do, it gives them intelligence onto what your capabilities are, what your countermeasures are, and how effective they are. And so some of that's actually counterproductive. And I'll give you a good example. Biden said, well, the balloon's going over the United States, but don't worry because we're jamming the signal so that the Chinese can't get the information. Well, that's actually bad to say that. And the reason is anybody that's ever worked in the electronic warfare business is if you jam somebody, you want to do it in a way that they don't actually know that they're being jammed.
Right.
You want them to think that they just bought stupid equipment at Radio Shack or something. So by acknowledging that we can detect their signals and jam them, we've actually told them something about our capabilities. And the only reason Biden did that is because he wanted to minimize the whole thing and say, oh, don't worry about it, right? And he's
Right.
making things worse by saying that. We're just governed by yahoos, basically.
Well, when you're trying to when you engage, you know what they say about the cover up. The cover up is worse than the crime, and it's almost as if they're trying to cover it up, right? And so
in this case, that's 1,000% true.
Yeah, it holds true in almost every case. James, as always, it's good to hear from you. Jim Carafano with the Heritage Foundation. Appreciate your time and your insight. Have a great week, my friend.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on.
All righty. Take care. We'll be right back, folks. 504-260-1870. Want to hear from you. Stay with us.
Officially 1 hour until your favorite show premieres. Time to get some snacks delivered through Instacart. Okay, let's get some popcorn, seltzer, chocolate-covered almonds, and wait, did they release the whole season? Better cart some ice cream for the 2-part finale. When your day should be ending but a new season is starting, the world is your cart. Visit instacart.com or download the app and get free delivery on your first order. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Additional terms apply.
Okay, the kids are already asking what's for dinner. But breaking news, empty fridge. That's okay. I'll Instacart. Let's add some organic asparagus and some farm fresh chicken. Easy. Wait, is the oldest vegetarian this week or was it gluten-free? Gluten-free pasta. Covered either way. Cart it. And finally, some vegetarian gluten-free olives for my well-earned cocktail. When your family's shopping list has more footnotes than groceries, the world is your cart. Visit Instacart.com or download the app and get free delivery on your first order. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Delivery subject to availability. Additional terms apply. Okay, the kids are already asking what's for dinner. But breaking news, empty fridge. That's okay. I'll Instacart. Let's add some organic asparagus and some farm fresh chicken. Easy. Wait, is the oldest vegetarian this week or was it gluten-free? Gluten-free pasta. Covered either way. Cart it. And finally, some vegetarian gluten-free olives for my well-earned cocktail. When your family's shopping list has more footnotes than groceries, the world is your cart. Visit Instacart.com or download the app and get free delivery on your first order. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Delivery subject to availability. Additional terms apply.
Well, the text line went crazy when we start talking about this, and we're a little critical of the Biden administration. It's not good policy to provoke our largest trading partner by inflaming speech about enemies. Tact is needed, which your brain-dead ass lacks. Really. Well, when they continue to do what they're doing, what choices do you have? No one is saying that we need to go poke the bear, but is there any doubt in anybody's mind that China is our enemy? Is anyone having any difficulty in recognizing and realizing and have a willingness to admit that China is our enemy? That China is not working in the best interest of the United States? Not now. Not ever. Why is that so hard to recognize, realize, and just admit? And then start acting like they're our enemy. It doesn't mean that you don't engage in foreign policy with them. You keep your friends close and your enemies closer. It doesn't mean that, but let's come to this realization. Why are we all tied up like a pretzel as to what we're going to say about China and how we're going to deal with this and how we delay decision-making on any number of fronts because we're afraid of the reaction of China? We know what they're doing with their enhanced alliance with the Russians as a result of Ukraine. We know that we are spending billions upon billions upon billions of dollars in sending arms over there. We know that they are engaging in atrocious war crimes because they believe that this is about us and them meaning both China and Russia. Now, allegedly, a lot of folks are saying, well, what about the balloons under the Trump administration? Well, I think you had a military guy that said they didn't tell the Trump administration about the balloons. So they couldn't have known. And in fact, most of the civilian appointees to the military, the defense secretary and others, have all said no one ever told us about Chinese balloons penetrating our airspace. Well, that's a tragedy. It is, absolutely. Who are these people that feel like they can filter information when it comes to our homeland security? This whole thing is not really about who's in the White House, folks. It's really about our homeland security. And it seems as though we have difficulty in figuring out what it is that we want to do. We're confused. We have mission confusion as it relates to homeland security and China. You should not be surprised in the least bit as I've talked about what's going on at the border. And if you don't think they're lying about that, you're sadly mistaken. They're lying. They've been lying, and they continue to lie. And we continue to suffer the ills of their lies at the border. So there's no big surprise about their willingness to lie. It's the same thing that you're going to find with the Hunter Biden laptop that, as AOC referred to, that half-baked concoction, right? Have you seen the intelligence officials now that they're starting to get subpoenas to come before committees, or the threat of subpoenas to come before the House Oversight Committee on this? They are backstroking so bad, it's ridiculous. They're going to set world records in the backstroke. That they really didn't say that this was Russian misinformation. What? They must think we're stupid. Now look, there's no party that has a corner on this. I get it. It's all about control. And we need to call it out when we see it. You call it out now because Biden was there. I called it out when Trump was there. I think I was probably the first in the media that has an opinion show that said we need to put Trump in the rear view mirror. Plain and simple. We forget about that. And I said then, and I'll say it again, he's not in the best interest of the Republican Party. And those that believe that he is or continues to be, they're not thinking clearly. They really aren't. And the realities is that if we can't focus on what the manipulation game that the Chinese are playing with this country, we are blind. And if we're afraid to admit to it because of some party affiliation, we should be ashamed. They are our enemy, plain and simple. No different than Russia. They're our enemy as well. Now, does that mean that we completely and totally bar doing business with them or anything else? No. But our antenna should be on high alert at all time. And in the aftermath of 9/11, which was the impetus of James Carafano's article, the establishment of NORTHCOM, a domestic military command dedicated to protecting the homeland and providing military assistance, for civilian authorities for disasters and domestic response. That's the mission, and everything else. NORAD, all of these agencies that are out there that deal with the protection of the homeland, and that we can fly balloons through a detection gap. Their words, not mine. Do we believe that that's by accident? That this balloon just so happened to go through a path where we know, and no one else should know, that there's a detection gap. And we believe that that balloon just so happened to go right through that detection gap. You believe in that coincidence? I don't. Now, I don't know where the truth lies, but I do know this. They're not saying anything, and they're not saying it for a reason. And I hope that our antennae are up now. Seems as though they are, because now we're popping balloons out of the sky like there's no tomorrow. I'm not sure what our limit will be. But in the short term here, keep popping them. And maybe we'll get to the bottom of what this is all about. We'll be right back.
Okay, the kids are already asking what's for dinner. But breaking news, empty fridge. That's okay. I'll Instacart. Let's add some organic asparagus and some farm fresh chicken. Easy. Wait, is the oldest vegetarian this week, or was it gluten-free? Gluten-free pasta. Covered either way. Cart it. And finally, some vegetarian gluten-free olives for my well-earned cocktail. When your family's shopping list has more footnotes than groceries, the world is your cart. Visit Instacart.com or download the app and get free delivery on your first order. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Delivery subject to availability. Additional terms apply. Okay, the kids are already asking what's for dinner. But breaking news, empty fridge. That's okay. I'll Instacart. Let's add some organic asparagus and some farm fresh chicken. Easy. Wait, is the oldest vegetarian this week, or was it gluten-free? Gluten-free pasta. Covered either way. Cart it. And finally, some vegetarian gluten-free olives for my well-earned cocktail. When your family's shopping list has more footnotes than groceries, the world is your cart. Visit Instacart.com or download the app and get free delivery on your first order. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Delivery subject to availability. Additional terms apply.
Officially 1 hour until your favorite show premieres. Time to get some snacks delivered through Instacart. Okay, let's get some popcorn, seltzer, chocolate-covered almonds, and wait, did they release the whole season? Better cart some ice cream for the 2-part finale. When your day should be ending but a new season is starting, the world is your cart. Visit Instacart.com or download the app and get free delivery on your first order. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Additional terms apply.
On a text line, you are the master of mis and disinformation, Sheriff. Well, call in. Tell me where I get this wrong.